Hey everybody, welcome back. So today is day 131 of being full carnivore, and I couldn't imagine 30 days ago that I would be standing here in front of this camera and telling you that I feel better than I did even 30 days ago. I'm sure the scale has something to do with that, but the mental clarity and things just seem to be getting better. My overall mood has really gotten, not that my moods were ever bad, but my moods fluctuated quite a bit. And a lot of that was, dependent on how I reacted to things and how I took things and stressors that went on, through the day, the course of just a normal day. Um, and it's just an amazing feeling to think that I could feel this good, and also wonder if there could be a ceiling at some point where I don't think you would just have an exponential continuation of feeling good that is just going to continue. But I mean, 131 days in of a total elimination, I'm sure there's a lot of things going on biologically and inside, um, because we're getting rid of, there's probably, well, plenty of stored toxins and things that are still, your body's still getting rid of. And it's just a great feeling overall. So, a couple of thoughts I had just recently, like if anybody's just getting into this for the weight loss and that's solely what they're focused on, I mean, that's a wonderful thing. But I think you're missing out on the, your moods and the way you feel about, listen, even just about diet and just about, your relationship to food, how you feel about food, your conditioning and addiction to food, which is the biggest thing. I think I said it in my first video that, I had to look myself in the mirror, which is why I did keto first. I knew about the carnivore diet, but it seemed a little extreme to me. But as I, continue to go through the keto thing, not that I had to convince myself, but I already knew that I was a meat eater. And one of the things that I reflected back on during that time while I was doing keto and thinking about going carnivore was, one of my first visits to a dental office. Um, as a child, I was probably in first grade, and I was eating a T-bone steak for dinner. And I bit down, and it looked like I was biting into a piece of meat, but I bit into the bone, and my bottom two fronts wiggled loose. And luckily for me, our family dentist was literally a block away, and my mother made a phone call, and he was gracious enough to open the office, after dinner, after hours, and helped wiggle out my two fronts. And that was one of the things that made me, just something that you think of in hindsight. I'm surprised I even remembered it, but I guess it was a little traumatic. But I was eating meat back when I was in first grade, and I recalled it and remembered that one of my grandmother, because we lived with my grandmother at the time, one of her famous meals was T-bone steak in the broiler, and once it was out and sizzling, she would just squeeze fresh lemon all over it and garlic, and that was the way we ate it, and it was a regular staple of our diet. So I didn't think I would have trouble making the conversion because I knew I eat, and I continued to eat meat. So um, just a lot of those things, the recalls, why I thought I would be successful uh, switching to a carnivore based plan, and how now, reflecting on 131 days in, my relationship with just the addiction, and feeling that with utmost certainty that I'm over the addiction portion of it. And the reason I can say that with, again, certainty is this is just a story. A couple of nights ago, after dinner, I usually go to my local Wawa and get a cup of coffee. And a couple of nights ago, I was in there. I also bought my Powerball ticket. Um, there was a young couple in front of me online, and they had their hands full. They had their hands cradled, with some snacks, just snack food. And to me, it seemed like, hey, this is a young couple. They're probably going to go home and binge watch TV or something, and they're going to snack out. And, it was like, well, I used to do that. That's, not being judgy. And I was just, I looked at what was on the counter. I'm like, man, those are good. Like in my head, I'm going, man, I remember eating those. Um, and then as a conditioning kind of thing, I thought about while they were online, when you get to a counter anywhere, you go to like a grocery store, any checkout counter, any store, there's usually, they have little displays with snacks and candies and stuff on it. So they put the stuff that they shopped for on the counter, and then they took 2 bags of peanut M&Ms that were in one of those displays and put them on. And I'm like, I used to do that too, the impulse buy, which to me is really less of the addiction, but more of a conditioning thing, because you're conditioned that marketing and advertising, they're smart. In retail, they're very smart. They know if you're standing online and you're waiting around and you're waiting for the line to move while you're there and you're seeing things that are addictive and things that you probably eat all the time, chances are you might pick one of those things up. That's a condition. And I think just our society in general, in America, we want everything better, bigger, better, faster, more. We're kind of gluttonous to a lot of things, not only with food. We want, the big house. We want to have a couple of cars. We want to have all the shiny shit. We want our iPhones. We want our information fast. We want everything, 700 channels on your TV. And we want it all. And we're kind of spoiled. And again, not only in relation to diet as far as being gluttons for things. So there's conditioning, I think, in all sorts of avenues of society, the things that we just do on a daily. Our jobs, we want our money fast. We want to make sure we have enough money. Some people go above and beyond, and that's great. But the conditioning of all of those things that we do, bigger, better, faster, more, there's always a price to pay for bigger, better, faster, more. And in regards to diet, bigger, better, faster, more will lead to bigger, not so better, faster, and more illness. And one of the rabbit holes that I've been going down recently is just checking statistics on things like heart disease and diabetes and obesity and juvenile diabetes. And the numbers have exponentially grown. Let's just go back to, say, 1960. Year over year, they've gotten so huge, and you have to make the direct correlation. I think once you get to a point where you're kind of sick with yourself, really, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and going, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And in regards to our diet, if we don't make the changes, which is what happened with me, I got scared. I wasn't quite even really pre-diabetic, but I was getting there. And I would have eventually been a statistic that fits into what I was just talking about. You look at the statistics year over year, these epidemic proportions that we've got in several different categories of illness. I would have gotten there, and I wasn't going to take myself out like that, because it's not my doctor's fault. My doctor can't be with me all the time, or have get that little image of my doctor sitting on my shoulder going, what have I been telling you for 25 years? You probably shouldn't eat that. You have to take the ultimate control, and you have the ultimate control. And you have to first admit, hi, my name is Joe, and I have an addiction to pasta, bread, chips, all that stuff. And, you're going to have to dig deep. There's a lot of success stories out there. So along with the addiction that you have to admit you have to sit back and wonder. Like I just said, the marketers and the advertisers and all the people that make all this food, they're smart. They kind of target the human condition, which is why I'm saying it's conditioning. They know on a long enough timeline that most people that are standing in line at a store for something like that I just mentioned, which is a daily routine, people are in and out of stores all the time. How many people do you think get in a line at a store that they're waiting, and while they're going, they go, oh, that looks good, I'll get the Reese's peanut butter cups, or I'll get that bag of pretzels. Anything that would be food related that is really not food. It's a I don't even, it's food-like. It's not really food. And they target the conditioning. They target our human condition, what we're predisposed to do when we're bored. Standing in line is boring. You get frustrated, and maybe there's something that triggers inside, right? There's some sort of chemical that gets released, and you get frustrated, and you go, what would be good right now? You know, candy bar, Snickers, something. So you pick it up, and that's part of, again, our conditioning. We're conditioned so often, and even in, again, I'm not blaming my family or my friends that I hung around with, because we didn't need a reason to celebrate with food. That was just what we ate. And as time went on, we just normalized it. And then I think it's time to now normalize something in reverse, that these food-like substances are no good for us. They lead to a host of issues, and we're seeing it. The carnivore community, listen, any elimination diet community, whether you're plant-based, elimination, carnivore elimination, keto elimination, we're all eliminating the processed food. It doesn't matter what diet you're using. I also think we get into this tribal groupthink kind of stuff. Listen, I follow the carnivore community because that's what I do, and I want to see how other carnivores are getting along. But if you regularly traverse the halls of YouTube and you're just looking for video and stuff, you're only a couple of clicks away from finding something else that might interest you. And I've watched some videos of people who are on plant-based diets that speak of the same things. They've eliminated the carbs, sugar, processed food. They've gone on a whole food plant-based diet. In other words, they don't eat the processed plant foods like the fake meat. They're legit eating whole food. They're eating their broccoli and their cauliflower and whatever else, and they're eliminating also. So when we get into this tribal kind of thing, the group think, I think the negative part of it is, there's going to be folks on this side of the fence, we're carnivores. There'll be folks on the plant-based or vegan side of the fence. And when we start pointing the fingers and saying, well, the carnivore way is the only way and the right way, and your way is wrong, the message gets missed by multitudes of people, because now they're saying, well, gee, maybe I shouldn't do that diet. Maybe I should do the other diet. You should do the diet that works for you. The ultimate message that should be sent is that we need to start realizing that we're conditioned, we're addicted to the processed food-like substances. And if you have ever heard of or followed, his name is Eddie Abu. I think he spells his last name Abbew. He showed up in my Instagram feed just because I follow carnivore folks and everything, and he showed up one day. This man is in his 60s and chiseled out of stone. I think he was a competitive bodybuilder. I think he's still a trainer. And he kind of does this scared straight kind of routine where he'll hold up he'll go into a grocery store and hold up a package of biscuits or cookies or something and literally will say, don't eat this. This is shit. And it's an in-your-face kind of thing. And some folks need that. Some folks need that real good kick in the pants to make them understand just how terrible these foods are, or food-like things are. It's not food. It's not sustenance. It'll fill your belly for a few hours, but then you're taxing your gut, you're taxing your liver, you're taxing your pancreas, you're taxing your entire system. And it leads to these diseases and, acute illnesses and chronic illnesses that we've all seen. We've all seen folks that have had diabetes, taken multiple medications. They've had brain fog. They've had depressions and anxiety and all kinds of things. They couldn't even leave the house. And then when they stumbled on whatever diet, I don't care if it's carnivore, lion diet, keto, some sort of plant-based diet, and they eliminate all the bad things, they've all gotten better. They've reversed things completely, or they're on a trajectory to now be the person that they really want to be and feeling better. So again, the group thing, when you start pointing fingers and, this is the only way, this is the best way, I don't think that matters. I think we by doing that and getting to those clicky little arguments, we don't send the right message to other human beings that are really trying to be better. the big message should be, you have to take the step. Nobody's going to save us. Okay, doctors aren't going to be with us 24/7. There's not going to be somebody that we can rely on 24/7. And whatever diet you choose, those first, in my case, the carnivore diet, when I went full blown, it took about 21 days or so before I started feeling some of the things that most other carnivores talk about. My brain fog lifted. I started feeling better. My movement was better. When I woke up in the morning, I didn't have to drag myself into the shower to get started. I just started my day. My sleep patterns got better. Everything started to improve. And in my case, 131 days in, everything continues to improve. And that's why I say I'm pretty much with precision certainty. The addiction part is over for me. Now I'm working on the conditioning, because I know there's going to be days that are coming up. There will be, I think I spoke about it in my first video. The last summer I went off to keto quite a bit. I mean, I put on 7 pounds. I was maintaining a little bit of it, but I went to parties and things and barbecues and a family reunion. And there's going to be now that I'm saying I'm clean off of the, the addiction portion of it. The conditioning portion will definitely rear its ugly head when I'm sitting around a table at a birthday party or some barbecue, and you're feeling good and you're having fun with your friends and family and whatever, and they're all, there's 100 different types of, food. There's all kinds of processed food all around you. That conditioning also goes along with enabling, and part of that is, it's okay, just, you can have a can of Coke once in a while, or you can have a brownie every day with your lunch, or you can have ice cream a couple times a week after dinner. I don't really think we can. The phrase or saying, just do everything in moderation, I really don't think I think moderation might be a few times a year. Not once a month, a couple times a month, a couple times a week. I don't think that's really moderation, because it does so much damage. It really does a lot of damage, which is why I'm sitting here, giving my testimony of what happened to me while I started this and as I'm going through it. So we really have to have, I don't want to say that it's mental fortitude or, you just stick to your guns, and you're disciplined. You have to look at it really in a health, encapsulate it in an overall health and well-being thing. When you start really looking at some of the foods, like let's just say aisles 2 through 10 in pretty much any standard grocery store, everything that's on the perimeter of the store, you might have reason to want to shop for it, your meat sections and all of that. That's where they are. Eggs, dairy, all that's around the outside of the store. Produce, everything in the middle, chances are not good for us. It's in a box. It's got a barcode. It's full of sugar. It's full of chemicals. And when you start, or what you have to do, is start looking at those things like they're poison. In dose, even in small doses, okay? But the cumulative effects of it, I don't believe there really is a moderation. I don't think that I could honestly say to myself now that after dinner, 3 nights a week, I could have, let's just say, a cup of just regular vanilla ice cream 3 days a week. I don't think that's moderation. I think that there's too much damage that happens, because I don't think you give your body a really decent chance, especially when you're getting older. Things aren't working the same internally, not for most. And let's remove from the equation of things that are accumulative and bad for us, remove the folks who have some sort of predisposition or a family history genetically of just contracting things, or being, somebody who has a better chance of having heart disease or diabetic or depressions, anything that would be genetically predisposed, because that does happen. So remove them from the equation and just look at the rest of the population, just everybody who's kind of on the same path. We're all kind of built the same way, or, everything kind of works the same way. We're just making, we've got a leg up. We're not predisposed to anything. And now we're just eating things that will definitely send us down the wrong path, and being sick, depressed. Um, Maybe there's things that are, like, even like growing up as a kid, there were never any diagnoses of ADHD, that were so common as it is now. Even things like gluten allergies, nobody had a gluten allergy. And maybe we did, it just wasn't picked up on until science and medicine caught up with it and said, well, this is probably why. Um, so you have to start thinking about those kind of food-like substances. Yes, they taste great. I listen. I didn't blow up to 285 pounds at my heaviest because I didn't enjoy eating those things. But now I have to sit back and think about, well, what I really enjoy eating, honestly, now, as a carnivore, I enjoy my red meat. I enjoy eggs. I enjoy my bacon. I sprinkle the chicken in once in a while when my body doesn't really feel like eating red meat anymore. The thing that's, still kind of an airplane circling in the air for me is because I do love certain types of vegetables. But I don't think at 131 days into this plan and eating this way is enough time for me to tell whether or not, or feel like I should, putting some, like even just having a salad once in a while. I don't think it's enough time. I don't think it's enough time really to put any kind of exclamation on just overall health and well-being that I'm feeling. I mean, I've already spoken about, the tendonitis in my elbow, the other itis in my knee, and the inflammation removing from the shoulder injury that's made it feel probably 75% better. Now, whatever structural things I might have to deal with as a whole other, that's totally different. That's structural that I might have to maybe still take it easy for a little while. Maybe it'll heal. I don't know. But I've, circling the wagons, so to speak, on whether or not I should have vegetables as a moderation in my diet. I can't make that decision yet. And I think maybe even when I get down to the next goal, which is the goal weight of 190 pounds, I don't even know if I'll reevaluate it then. I might just be feeling so good and say, well, I've been doing this for a year now, or, 18 months, and I haven't suffered. I haven't had any ill effects of not eating my broccoli. Doesn't mean I don't like it. And I think in the grander scheme of things, that if I wanted to fall off the carnivore wagon, I think having a bowl of broccoli with butter on it would be a better alternative than to sitting down and eating a bag of barbecue potato chips. I think there's the trade-off where you have to say, well, moderation. If I feel like something crunchy, I'll have some steamed broccoli smothered in butter rather than a crunchy bag of chips. I think that's where we need to start really, when you go down you put the blinders on for a little bit and go into the dark, dusty corners of all of this and say to yourself, well, alternative wise, if I want to eat something in moderation, what should it be? I think whole food ultimately would be what you should eat. And I think we all need to start thinking that way because, again, we're conditioned. The way our society has I don't want to say we've evolved. I think we're going backwards. We're not making ourselves healthier. We can see it in the healthcare industry. How many people are, taking medications for a myriad of things? Now, does that mean processed food is the culprit of all of those things? Probably not. But for a very large percentage of the common ailments, especially when we've already seen numbers and charts and clinical, papers and things being reported on, or stuff that's shoved right under our noses, right here in YouTube, in social media, and folks that are streaming their lives on how they've eliminated all this stuff and how they ended up taking 15 or 20 medications and put them in a big baggie and either return them to their pharmacy or flush them down the toilet because they don't take them anymore. outside of, the obvious things when you're seeing these folks, before and afters, losing hundreds of pounds on top of it. Uh, it's all a direct correlation of eliminating these foods or these food-like substances. It's not food. It's not sustain. It's not sustenance. It's not nutrient dense. It doesn't really feed your body. It doesn't feed us mentally either, because I'm seeing the mental changes. I'm seeing the attitude changes. And, you can apply that not only to diet, you can apply that to people too. And that's part of my anxiety. My anxiety story was I needed to be around people that fed me. They fed me something. They weren't just taxing my systems. They weren't just either taking advantage of me or being loud, obnoxious, and vexatious and just tough to be around, for lack of a better word, toxic. Now, that doesn't mean that they're mean people or nasty people. It's just that the way they carry themselves it's just not for me. So it's a toxicity for me. Same thing with these foods in a bag with a shelf life are toxic. So you can apply a lot of these rules and things to not only diet, you can apply it to just your everyday kind of life too. But one of the things that still really irritates me, and I'm pretty sure I said it in my first video, was the epidemic numbers of juvenile diabetics in this country. So if you look at it in the overhead view, they could turn out to be the sickest generation that's ever come out of our American society. And when do we, listen, I don't have children, okay, but if I did, and I was, like now, in the state that I am and knowing about what's going on, I'm sure my children would have been eating the same diet, and maybe they would have been ill. And, I'm sure I would have pulled back on the reins and said, hey, kids, listen, this is what's happening. And we can't know, we normalize it. There's children that are taking insulin. It's not because they're, it's not because they're lazy. And there's just too much of it. There's way too much of it to be explained away or to be, be complacent about it. We'll just take insulin, or, again, with things like cholesterol and all that. Well, your cholesterol is way too high. You have to take a statin. And some folks just sit back and go, oh, well, there's a pill for it. There's a pill for it. There's a pill for it. There's a magic shot for it. There's also not eating the foods that will probably get you closer and put you in those categories. And when you realize that the medicines aren't going to save us, they might help us through, and maybe that's what some folks need. Oh, geez, now I have to take insulin. There's got to be another way, and then they find out about any elimination. Again, I don't care if it's carnivore, I don't care if it's plant-based, I don't care what it is. As long as it's an elimination, that's the message that everybody who's in that boat or approaching to jump in that boat like I was, that's what we need to see. That's what we need to push out to the masses. When does it become mainstream? I really don't know. But I think the grassroots movement of anybody, and whatever diet it is, as long as it's an elimination and all of us are staying away from all that garbage, that's a better, overall picture of health for everybody. For everybody. So I got another, what is it now? So 131, so 49 days until I hit my 180 mark, 180 days, a half a year-ish. And again, I don't know what the ceiling is going to be on feeling good. I'm sure I'm going to feel even better, but it'll cap off at some point. And, I'll make some, again, maybe I'll need to make modifications at 180 days. Maybe I won't want to make any modifications. Maybe I'll just want to ride it out and see what gives for another 180. Because again, I don't think even 6 months is going to be enough time to really put some markers down and say, well, I should do this now, or maybe I could put, I could eat broccoli once a week in regards to veggies. Fruit's still off the table. I'm not going to even think about fruit. Maybe it's 2 years from now. I don't know what it's going to be. what I do know is the conditioning is no longer really gripping me, but I'll see when I'm in a spot where it could. And those days are going to come up, from say like the end of June through September. There's going to be several things that I will be attending, and I'm going to have to be on. I'm going to have to be on my game, and hopefully by then I really have it under control and go, man, it doesn't bother me. I'll just eat steak, or you know what I mean, or probably might have a bridge to jump off, in regards to alcohol. Like I haven't touched a drink since Labor Day of 2023. That might be the tough one. And do I just say to myself, well, yeah, just have the beer or the mixed drink or whatever, but don't touch the food? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's circling around me because it's going to, it's going to get here fast. So I have to be on my game of the conditioning part of it, because I'll be around folks that I enjoy being around, seeing them have a good time. I'll want to, not really peer pressure, but, you want to sit with the cool kids, right? And we'll see what happens. So I'm probably not going to give another weight update until I get to day 180. I'd rather continue to put out messages like this one as I come up with them, as the things just hit me, rather than have folks tune in just to see what the scales did. I want to see if Joe lost any more weight this week, or that's not what I started this for. Granted, I want to look better in the mirror, and I have the goal weight in mind. But I don't want to just, put out updates just because I want you to see what the scale does, or, how much weight I've lost. I'll do that at 180, 180 days. You'll get the next weight update, what the scale tips in at. But I'd rather put out content like this that, some of the things I'm researching, some of the ways that I'm feeling, and maybe a little bit of a tough love message in there too, especially about things like looking at yourself in the mirror and making the decision, especially if you're walking down the path already and you are sick and you could be suffering. That's the ultimate thing. None of us should suffer. Life is hard enough, and we're complicating it. We're medications and things are kind of like the Band-Aids to cover the symptom. They don't really cure anything. Ultimately, we are the cure, and we can make strides to feel better and look better, obviously, and just not suffer anymore. Because I know there's some that are really, really suffering. So I'm going to try and continue to put, a positive reinforcement messages out as with every update and things that I'm thinking about and stuff like that. So I thank everybody for the continued support, liking, sharing, subscribing, leaving comments. I hope everybody's doing well, and I'll see you in the next video.